welcome to the super special edition of Librarytime for Remembrance Day. So I am so excited to share with you guys that we got the Georgina Military Museum to give us a special show and tell tour. And I got to go there and film them, and I want to say a huge thank you to Sid and all the volunteers there. They're doing a lot of hard work to make sure they can get everything, finish their renovations and open it up to the public again. And we got to hear some great stories and see some really great things. So I'm so excited for you guys, because a lot of people can't visit the Military Museum right now for Remembrance Day, but we get to bring it to you guys at home. So stay tuned in just a moment, and we're going to show you some really cool stuff.
Good morning. We would like to welcome you to the Georgina Military Museum, and I will talk about a couple of the exhibits we have available to see. And behind me is this wonderful picture. It's a collage of a story of a 50-year-old man's memory as a 10-year-old boy. His name was Henk Dijkman, and he was in Holland during the war. And this picture depicts Panzer tank, the Stukas, and Hitler when Holland was attacked. And then, as the war carried on, as the Allies attacked, we see a Spitfire, we see a Canadian soldier, we see the town of Liesen on fire up the top here. And this all occurred April the 4th, the story I'm going to tell. This building beside the windmill here was a school. Hank's father was the principal of the school, and the house on the end is where the family lived. On this particular day, the Canadian troops were attacking, and the last German to leave the house noticed that the Dijkman family were going into the basement. So he said to the family, "Don't go in the basement. The Canadian troops have flamethrowers, and if they think we're in here, they will set fire to the building. So don't go down there, because they're too dangerous." So the German soldier left to the next line of defense, and Mr. Dijkman decided to go to the rear door with his wife and the two children, his son and his daughter, with a white cloth, and open the door and wave the cloth. Along comes some Canadian soldiers in a Bren gun carrier, which also was a flamethrower unit. It stopped. One gentleman, young Canadian soldier, dismounted, picked up his weapon, and walked to the house. Asked, "Were there Germans inside?" And he said, "No, this is my wife and two children." And he said, "Well, you're going to have to back up, because I have to check the house, because they may be behind you with a gun ready to shoot me." So anyways, he checked all the building out from top to bottom, all the school buildings, and found that they were clear of Germans. So he went to the back door and he shouted out to his companions, "It's all clear." Now that young gentleman that did that was someone known well locally. He was a 19-year-old young man, and his name was Lloyd Crate, and from Crates Marina. And Lloyd went on from there and finished his tour during the war, and he came back and worked again for the family business. Now, that battle that was taking on around there took the lives that day and the day after of 11 Canadians during that battle. Now, keep that in mind, because Mr. Dijkman, after, emigrated to Canada. He became a man of the cloth. He worked, one of his jobs, he worked at the Guelph Penitentiary as their minister, and he became friendly with another Dutchman, Arend Newland, who I later found out was a cousin of a very good friend of mine. But Arend Newland painted Hank's memory, his memory as a 10-year-old boy. And what you see, that collage represents that memory of a 10-year-old boy. Now, here is a picture of Hank Dijkman Sr. This is Mr. Dijkman Sr. And he remained very good friends with Lloyd Crate. And there are a picture at Crate's Marina. Now, Mr. Dijkman Jr., who was here in Canada, he was very, very active in gaining recognition for those 11 soldiers. Leeson grew like Keswick has grown. Leeson was a small country town and it grew like Keswick has. And that area became a new subdivision where the battle took place. So he petitioned the local government, and after quite a few years he got 10 street names and 1 bridge named after those 11 Canadians. And this shows those street names, and then this all commemorates. And these are pictures here of the 11 Canadians that lost their lives in that battle. Also, again, Mr. Dijkman Jr., he made this book up, The Glens in Leeson, because they were the Dundas and Glengarry Highlanders. That was a unit that was there. Now this book has maps, everything, and it tells the whole story of the Battle of Leeson, leading up to it and after, saying how these people got killed and everything. And Mr. Dijkman, him and his wife, put this publication together, and they found all the families of the 11 Canadians that died during that battle, and they made sure the families all got copies of this publication. So Mr. Dijkman, being a religious man, he was committed to getting recognition for those soldiers, of which he did. He's a marvelous man. And he donated this picture. He moved from his house into a condominium. He contacted this museum and said, because Lloyd Crate's hometown of Keswick, would we like this picture? He felt this was the only place it should be. So we were so thankful for it. It has a place of honor, which we have in our main hallway here, and the story around here. It all depicts honoring these men, particularly at a time like this. Here we are with some of the uniforms that have been donated to the museum, and these are some of what we have. This would be a World War II dress uniform for the Irish regiment. The founder of this museum was part of the Irish regiment, Sam Doggett, and he went all through the war, and he was in Italy and went on to Holland, and he was wounded 2 or 3 days before the war finished, as my father was with the British Army in Holland, almost close to the same area. So this would be the uniform of a Canadian serviceman when they unified the 3 services, and they all wore a common uniform. It wasn't well received by the Army, Navy, and Air Force because they like their individuality, which I agree with. And so this is now discontinued. They have their own identity now, but that was from that period of time. The next one moving along here, this would have what Canadian soldiers would have wore in, say, the Arctic or cold snowy areas as camouflage. For obvious reasons, for lack of visibility, so that they could not be seen. So that's typical. They would have slipped that over their regular combat uniforms. This is a dress uniform. The lady has loaned that to us. It's a dress uniform of her father. I really forget which regiment it is, so I must apologize. And I can't see, I haven't got my glasses on, so. The next one moving along here is what a Canadian pilot would have wore. This is post-war. This would have been from anywhere between the 60s and 80s. The next two uniforms here are uniform of one of our members who's in the other building right now. He spent 40 years in the Governor General Horse Guards. And these are uniforms he would have worn, so these are fairly modern. I would like to say a wholeheartedly thank you for joining us at the museum today. Being optimistic, when we open next year, we would like to see you come and visit us to see all our wonderful artifacts. And also, as November the 11th is coming up next week, being closed is inconvenient for that, but what we are doing, we're making the museum accessible to residents of Georgina for 4 hours, from 10 until 2, to visit here. We're under very strict COVID observance, to pay the respects if they wish to, because they will be unable to go to the cenotaphs this year due to limited attendance, down to 25 people, but we will be open for people to pay their respects here. Be one family at a time in each building, and that's it. So we thought it would be nice to be able to do this for some people to pay their respects this way. So we would very much enjoying having you here. Thank you.